Hey man, you know what it is, man. Hebron Ben Bilal coming back at you with those backyard chronicles again. So tell a friend to tell a friend that Hebron Ben Bilal is back with those backyard chronicles again, man. Breaking these pagan holidays down this week, creating a nice little catalog for you guys that you can reference to in regard to any of these holy holidays and their origins and how we came or you all came to honoring them today. All right. If you haven't liked and subscribed yet, man, do so, man. I appreciate those who have just got on board and started to like and subscribe. Man, I appreciate your support. And I'm going to keep on coming out with this content, man. We just hit on different topics. If you like, you can go back into my histories and look at different things that I've discussed um, and the things that we'll be discussing in the future. But without further ado, man, we're going to jump on this particular holiday today. Valentine's Day is fitting because it's coming up soon. Um, and also, we're going in order. So if you haven't already, go back, look at the one we did yesterday. Look at Saturnalia, which is Christmas. This is going to be in the catalog, and these will be available for you. We're going to create a little catalog, and we're going to make them available for you if you would like to pass them along to individuals who observe these things, and you've been trying to communicate why they shouldn't. Pass this information along. Feel free to pass it along. As I always do, like I said, a lot of us do not like to subscribe to our own people, so I always do the same thing. I always go out and get outside sources because you are more compelled or you're quicker to listen to people who don't look like you. You generally gravitate towards the Europeans' information and their knowledge, which they didn't do anything but hijack from somebody else. But anyway, I digress from that point. But um, you have the tendency to want to hear it from others. You don't want to hear it from people who look like you. So you gravitate towards others' information more so than people who look like you. So as always, I've set up a video, someone else explaining what Valentine's Day represents, where its origins derive from, and so on and so forth. Now, for those who look to me for information, once again, I appreciate that fact and I vet this information. I watch the videos, I listen, I already know the information, but I find that others can explain it and expound on it in a more concise manner. They can do it in a more brief fashion. So I've selected two videos for you guys today. Um, Two videos for you today, very short, but they break down the history of these pagan origins. I mean, this pagan observance, excuse me. So we're going to start with the history channels breakdown in regard to Valentine's Day. And then we're going to go to the young lady down there in the corner because she gives a deeper dive into the origins of this observance.
For all its popularity, history doesn't give us any guarantees as to the origins of Valentine's Day. But we do know it contains vestiges of the early Christian church and ancient Rome. The association between mid-February and romance goes back to a pagan festival known as Lupercalia, likely honoring either Lupa, the she-wolf of Rome who suckled Romulus and Remus, or Faunus, their god of fertility. The festivities began with an animal sacrifice. Then the ritualistic slapping of young women with strips of the animal's skin and blood to bestow fertility for the coming year. In the 5th century, perhaps in an effort to Christianize the pagan festival, Pope Gelasius declared February 14th as St. Valentine's Day. As for the real St. Valentine, there were reportedly several canonized by the Church. Legend has it that one St. Valentine, a defiant Roman priest, lived during the 3rd century AD under Emperor Claudius II. Claudius was an ambitious ruler. His battles required vast armies of men to abandon their young families for long periods of time, resulting in a military that was half-hearted and homesick. So determined was Claudius to stop love from sapping the will of his armies, he banned marriages altogether. Father Valentine thought the ban unjust and defied the emperor, continuing to marry young lovers in secret. The emperor eventually caught on to the priest's actions, arrested him, and sentenced him to death. It is believed that young couples he had secretly wed would visit his cell, passing him flowers and notes through the bars as symbols of their gratitude. The story continues that the condemned Father Valentine fell in love with his jailer's daughter. On February 14th, the day he was executed, it is said he passed the young girl a note. It was signed, "From your Valentine." A tradition was born. Cupid, the winged matchmaker, started out as the Roman god of love, inspired the image of cherubs for Christians, and is now a favorite of card makers and mass marketers. Our modern Valentine's Day, removed from its religious and pagan past, has evolved into one of the most celebrated holidays on the calendar. On average, Americans shower their loved ones with 180 million roses, red ones naturally, and almost 36 million heart-shaped boxes of candy, not to mention all those cards, dinners, and diamonds. All told, the holiday brings in almost $14 billion annually, giving retailers plenty to love as well. But if you're worried that you can't afford to treat your loved one properly next Valentine's Day, take heart. The poets were right. Love is really all you need.
Oh, ain't that sweet? Ain't that just so sweet? I love how they will give you the information, and then they sweeten it up for you. They'll give you the information, and then they'll just kind of fluff it up and sweeten it up, and you guys just flock to it, and I love it. But before we get into our recap, I'm going to want for you to listen to what the young lady has to say, and she's going to take it back a bit further, historically, and give you the origins, the ultimate origins of, where it derives from. Even though the History Channel kind of skimmed on it, I love when individuals take deep dives and give you all the minutiae, everything, the small nuances, all the things that incorporated and made it into what it was today. And she's going to do just that, but she's just going to give you, in this particular video, she's going to give you the backstory, take it back a little bit further. And the reason that I selected her, because I've seen a lot of different ones, the reason I selected her, once again, is because she's white, she's European. And once again, that dissonance that you guys have in your head when it comes to, and we'll get into cognitive dissonance and more videos going forward, but it's there and it's true. Whether you like to admit it or not, and that's what dissonance is, you'll never admit it, but it's there and it's true, it exists inside of you. So it's always imperative that I do these videos, but at the same time, give you outside sources for you to reference, because once again, you trust others more than you trust your own. So I always take these people and prop them up in your face and let them explain it. Let's get to it.
This is Scarlett, and I post weekly videos about topics like tarot, paganism, and spirituality. So if you are interested in those topics, do please take a moment to subscribe down below. And I wanted to make this quick video for you guys because we have Valentine's Day coming up tomorrow. And like many Christian holidays, Valentine's Day actually has some roots in pagan celebrations, and the pagan celebration that is most closely tied to contemporary Valentine's Day is known as Lupercalia, and this comes from ancient Roman times, and it was celebrated between February 13th and 15th. And Lupercalia was very different from the way we kind of celebrate Valentine's Day today, though it was about fertility, and many of the pagan festivals and celebrations do focus around fertility. So for Lupercalia in ancient Rome, what men would do is they would sacrifice both a goat and a dog, and then they would take the hides off of the animals and whip the women with them. And before you freak out, this wasn't like an angry whipping, I guess you could say. Young women, they would actually line up for men to hit them with these animal hides because they believed that it actually made them more fertile. And it was interesting. I used to live in Prague, so I lived there for a year, and one of the things they still do today, it's more around the Ostara time than the time of Valentine's Day, but they would clip young branches during springtime and kind of whip the women with them, with the same kind of idea, like bringing this youthful energy, this fertility into the women of their town. So this kind of concept is still out and about among some cultures. So yeah, kind of a weird thing to be doing. The Romans also did a few other things. They had a kind of a matchmaking lottery, and for this, young men would draw the names of women from a jar, and then they would be coupled up for that day of Lupercalia and maybe longer if that match, you know, ended up going well. So how do we end up with what we know now as Valentine's Day? So when you think about the name of Valentine's Day, that actually started to come about from Emperor Claudius II, and he executed two particular men, both named Valentine, and he executed them on February 14th during the 3rd century AD. So their kind of martyrdom is honored by the Catholic Church, and that's how we get the name Saint Valentine's Day. And the reason they were martyred was because Emperor Claudius II believed that a soldier would do better at his work if he was not married and did not have a family. So he actually outlawed marriage for young men. And according to the story, one particular priest named Valentine decided to go against his wishes and instead perform marriages in secret for young lovers. So once that was found out, he was ordered to be put to death. So the name we get from this holiday of Valentine's Day actually comes from the martyrdom of a couple people who were named Valentine, who were killed during the reign of Emperor Claudius II. And so on to kind of like the 5th century, we have a pope, Pope Gelasius. I might be pronouncing that name wrong, but he kind of combined Saint Valentine's Day with Lupercalia in order to kind of end these pagan rituals. And this is a popular practice that you see among many current Christian holidays, such as, you know, incorporating Yule traditions into Christmas or Ostara traditions into Easter. So same kind of a thing, incorporating some of these traditions and this concept of fertility and love, bringing that into a contemporary Christian holiday of Valentine's Day. So by the time it was kind of deemed a specific day by Pope Gelasius, the Lupercalia festivities were much more tame than they were back in kind of ancient Roman times. Though it was still definitely seen as a day of fertility and love for those that were celebrating Lupercalia. So that has continued onto contemporary Valentine's Day. So that's a rough kind of story that I wanted to share with you on how Valentine's Day came to be and how it's another great example of the evolution of a lot of pagan traditions and festivities and how they made their way into what Christians now celebrate. So I wanted to take this moment to wish you all a wonderful Valentine's Day, or Lupercalia. And
She said it best. Oh man, she said it best. Happy Lupercalia. She said it best, man. I mean, the reason. Once again, let me as I recap, I want to reinforce that. I want to reiterate this. Excuse me. I want to reiterate this. The reason that I show you these videos is because I don't want people to watch these videos and say, "Oh, he's just some angry Israelite trying to bash what we observe." No, I'm going to the source, to the people. Those are their observances. Christmas, Easter. Those are their observances. You honor their traditions. They're not your traditions. They are man-made traditions, pagan observances that were birthed out of worshiping these particular deities. And I want them to explain it to you versus me explaining it to you. Because if I sit here and explain to you, oh, that nigga, he don't know what he talking about. That's the first thing y'all gonna say. Or that he's an angry Israelite, one of those guys on the corner. No, I bring you Becky. I bring you the History Channel. I bring you all these different people so they can explain it to you. So you can't deny it and say, oh, he's just doing that because he... No, no, no. I want them to tell you where these things originated from because it is they who created these observances. And she just explained it to you. The History Channel just explained it to you. So let's recap, shall we? While you think you're doing this for love, black folks, essentially you're not. It has nothing to do with that. It was a fertility. It was about deities. It was worshiping and honoring things that you are not supposed to be honoring. So when you think it's about love, this is what you're really doing, Lupercalia. So when you think you're doing all this stuff, oh my baby, you know that, no, no, no. This was done in the past. This is not something that the United States made up for marketing purposes, as a lot of people tell you. That's not so. It was created back then as a fertility thing. This is this is what kills me. You don't do your research. You allow somebody to feed you information. They create such a high level of cognitive dissonance in you that when they tell you the truth, they've created this narrative. This lie has grown so large in your mind, it has taken root so heavily that when they come back and tell you the truth, you don't even believe the truth because you fed into the lie. This is what it's about, man. It's about Cupid. It's about Lupercalia. It's about these things. Pope Galatius is the one who took it and combined it, just like all the early Christians did. They took these things and they combined it to give it so the pagans, and then they put it underneath a nice little guise and put a hat on it and say, hey, look, you can observe it now. This is who did it. He messed it. Oh, yeah, let's take all this, put it together and rub it and make it look real pretty. And then we'll give it to the people and they'll observe it forever, just like this. But this is what you got. This is what you got, man. You got a pig with lipstick on it. And they gave it to you. You looked at it. You said, hey, that's a pig. And they said, no, 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 no. It's not a pig. It's pretty. See, it has lipstick on it. And they created this dissonance in your mind that you're looking now at that pig and saying, oh, that pig is really pretty. Let me give it a kiss. Because that's what you're doing. They just told you what you're celebrating. It's idol worship. I don't care how you say it. I don't care how you cut it. It's idol worship. This is what you're doing on these days, man. At the end of the day, you are worshiping idols. And this is what your book tells you about it. That pig that you just seen with the lipstick. 1 John 5:21. I'm going to keep going back to these because I won't take you to the Old Text or the Torah because the Old Testament is not away with it. But the New Testament tells you. Your early church fathers told you. Little children, keep yourselves from idols. But you run right to it. Every year that you observe this, you buy those little cards, take your girl out and all that. This is what you're doing. You're idol worshiping. This is what they created it for. 1 Corinthians 10:14. You can't get around it, man. Period. So if you're watching these videos and, oh, that nigga, of course that's what you're saying, but that's why I let Becky tell you. Becky told y'all her own mouth, hey, man, look, we created this back in the day, and this is what it represented. And this is why we do it today. This is what it is. You can't change it. It's that same pig. And while you're in church and you're doing your thing and then you're taking your girl out for Valentine's Day, enjoy that. Because that's where you're headed, man. If you say that you are a Christian, a follower of Christ, the rules are simple. Don't idol worship. Don't idol worship. But once again, you're going to do what you want to do because it feels good to you. Anything that doesn't feel good can't be right. Hey, man, there it is. That's where you and your girl going to be jumping into after you get done observing that thing. But like I say, man, we're going to keep breaking these things down and I'm going to keep giving them to you. I'm going to try to do them daily so we can create a catalog and have all this information readily available to you and for you if you want to pass it on to your family members, if you're trying to explain it, if you want understanding in regard to what it means. There's going to be a catalog available for you so you can watch, you can learn, and when someone comes to ask you, you can say, hey, look, this is why we don't do it. Because my answer always used to be because it's not biblical. You can't find it in scripture. So they would say, all right, well, what's wrong with that? What's the problem with that? So what? It's a man-made tradition, not hurting anything. You have to know the origins in order to explain to someone you're idol worshiping. This is what you're doing. This is the origins. And then you allow that person or those people to make the decision from that point. But man, like I say all the time, man, if you have not liked and subscribed to the channel, man, get on board, man. Hebron Ben Bilal, bringing wisdom to the wise with these Backyard Chronicles. And if you do not know how to think, trust me, I will give you an opinion. I love y'all, man, and y'all have a blessed and wonderful day.